Easter thug.
I look like an Easter thug?
Well, with your like baggy ripped pants and your flashy bunny and your sweatshirt and then like a hoodie with like ears on it or something.
Right. I'm an Easter thug. Welcome to David Christopher's, everybody. I'm Jen.
I'm David.
Still David over here.
Still David.
And we are back today with some new ideas for you. Now, we did a video a couple of weeks ago on porch planters, and you all loved it so much, and we had requests for more videos like that. So David is going to put together some porch planter ideas today. These don't have to go on your porch though. They could go inside if you need them for an event or whatnot. But I'm being told that he's probably going to put some together later on that are
we'll do some large ones
later
on. I think we used to do a lot of this size urn for like foyers. People had grand foyers.
Today, David is going to show you 3 different designs. One he's calling for a novice. So if you have 0 experience,
if you have -5 degrees of experience, you can do this.
You can do this.
Guaranteed.
And the second design is going to be for the beginner. So maybe you have a little experience or you have a little natural talent at floral design. Then you can definitely jump in and do the beginner.
May require wire cutters, but just easy, simple,
Very easy. And the third one that he's going to be doing is just considered intermediate. He said it's not even advanced. It's not even professional. Like you have to be a professional to do this. So we really feel like anybody watching this video, especially if you've been watching this channel for a while, you're ready. You're ready to do each one of these. And so let's go ahead and jump in with number 1 for the novices. Is that right? Out there.
The negative novices.
The negative novices.
The pre-novice.
Yes.
Novices, yes.
And since you called me an Easter thug, you got a little peanut butter on your finger.
So I do. Okay, so first thing we need some styrofoam. If you order a kit, you will get sent a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of styrofoam, and we're going to cut that. I'm going to have to cut some more. So you're going to get a 12 by 12-ish. I cut just a little bit of an angle here, but I'm just kind of eyeballing. So what we're going to do to make this round, because square peg round hole doesn't quite work, learned that in preschool, is we're going to take the corners off. So we're more like octagon here, and then we're just going to shave down from that point, because this will almost fit. What we're going to do is take those corners off. And we're getting pretty close, just a little more. Okay, so you can keep taking this down just a little bit if you want, but once it fits just inside the rim here, that's pretty much where we want it. I'm going to take this little corner off right there that's keeping it from going just a little bit further, because we really want it just like a 1/2 inch deeper, 1/2 inch to 1 inch below the surface. This may be a little loud, but once you get it to this point where it kind of touches on most every side, we're going to push down on the corners, not in the middle, because if you press directly in the middle, it doesn't want to give on the corners and it will possibly crack. But if you push on the corners, it will just wedge really tightly in there. And that's about where we want it, is just about a 1/2 inch on each side. If you get a little less on one side, you can just kind of push on that side a little bit more. But that's pretty much all there is to it to get your styrofoam in the planter. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be using these tulip bushes, and you know, we've got two different color well, they're not different color, they're both pink, but this is a different version of a tulip bush. So we're going to mix those together, because anytime you can mix two varieties of the same flower, similar color, it makes them look more realistic, because they're all a little bit different and not 100% perfect. So we are going to start by placing one of these larger tulip bushes directly in the center. Let it kind of stay a little bit taller, because we want a little height in the middle. And then we just want to separate all of those other pieces out. And then we're going to place a couple more of these. We want to let some of our smaller pieces come out to the sides. Some of our taller pieces stay toward the middle. And we've got 3 more of these that we're going to add. So just repeat the process. Repeat the process. Like I said, smaller ones out to the sides. Keep your taller ones more towards the center. And then we will bring some of those around to the front area here, just to keep that more visible. And then we are going to be adding our smaller tulip bush. So we're really just going to go kind of in between where we went with the larger one. And we're just going to separate out some of these, because we want some of the tulips to be mixed in here. So in between those other tulip bushes that we just added, we're going to be adding this slightly smaller version. And we don't want to go too far to the outside, to the edge here, because we are going to be adding some fern to that. But very simple, anybody can do this. We're just gonna place one more. And then just make sure that you've got those really good and mixed up. You don't have too much of one variety mixed with the other. And no, you don't want the heads touching necessarily. You want those separated so that you see each individual one fairly well. Anytime you've got those together, let's separate those out a little bit and just bend those out more. Okay, just about there. Just try to keep those from touching too much. And then we're going to add our fern. And we're just going to pull, it's kind of got some of these wired branches as well as like the tulips, where we're going to separate that out. So we're going to separate the fern. We're going to put one right here almost in the very center. And then we're going to separate it out. On the sides. And one toward the back. And I actually think I may put one directly in the middle, just so that you can't see any of the styrofoam. I'm just gonna make me a little space here. Let some of that foliage mix and mingle around with the other tulip stems, just so that's a little thicker right there in the middle, where you might look down and see that if this was on someone's porch. But that should give us some really good coverage, because we really just don't want to see the styrofoam. That's the main thing with the fern and the tulips is we just want to cover that completely so that you can't see down into the styrofoam there, because that will make it look more artificial. And so if you decide you're done with tulips because spring is over and, you know, Easter's no longer here, or, you know, May has come and gone, and you want to pop that out, you can just pop that entire thing out, and then next spring you can just go, oh look, it's spring again.
Mm-hmm. So you could store it in maybe a garbage bag.
Yeah, just something to keep
dusty.
the dust off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But those are pretty simple to make, and then we're going to move on to a slightly more complicated version. So for this one, we're going to be using peony bushes. Peonies, peony, however you want to say it. That's what we're going to be using. So we're going to be using a couple of different colors because, like I said, that will help with the realism effect. Is we're going to be using this more blush color, this hotter pink color that's got this blush color in the middle. And then we're going to be using this bouquet version just to kind of mix those up, because like I said, anytime you can mix two different varieties together, it's going to help with making it look more realistic. So we're going to do very similar to what we did with the last one. And we're going to just place a few of these more toward the center. We are going to be using some fern to go around the edges, a little different fern than we used for the first one. But most of the same rules still kind of apply, is shorter stems out toward the edges. We want to mix some of these colors up so we don't have just like a group of the deep pink in one spot. Because that starts to look very odd, that it just all together. Cut the tags off. That does also help with realism.
And that fire truck is helping with the realism of this video.
That it's a real video.
It's a real video.
Or this is a floral emergency. The fire truck is on their way. It's like one of those rescue shows. We talked about doing that one time. The Christmas rescue thing would be good.
Well, we've done it for people before.
We have rescued people before, yeah.
We have flown out in a hurry and fixed people's Christmas disasters. So
somebody else decorated for them and they weren't quite happy.
Yeah, so if you know somebody out there in the production world that wants us to do Christmas rescue, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. We would not mind doing that. So we are going to add some of this more round bouquet style of peony back into this.
Because that's my favorite.
It is. This is Jen's favorite. So these are going to be slightly more complicated to add, mostly because they're a little bit shorter stems. So we are going to be adding these a little bit more around the edges. And if you'll notice, these have a stem that is tubed, which means that we need to actually cut a little piece of that off to get down to the wire in it. So there's a couple options when you need to make a stem like this. This is what we call a tubed stem. It's a plastic tube on top of a wire. I will show you the wire. We'll cut that little tube off. There's the wire right there. So it's a little shorter than the tube. Makes it look a little more realistic. So we can just cut it this length. And if you want to make it taller, you can take a wood pick, a very thin piece of wire. Sometimes I just save other stems that I have cut off of. But we can take a wood pick and cut that wired end off because that's unnecessary. And then we can just place that in the styrofoam. So like I said, slightly more complicated. This is a little higher difficulty, but we're only going to do that with a few of them, so we're not going to need like a ton of super tall ones, but really just sticking that pick in it to make it a little taller to get it to the right height.
And you will receive some of the picks. If you buy this kit, you'll receive about a dozen of the wood picks.
Yes. Got some right here.
Yeah, show them.
They have wire on them, so they're traditionally they're meant to actually use this wire to wrap around the outside of the stem, and then you would, in floral world, we would take floral tape, obviously, and we would tape over that wired stem, because we don't want to see that copper wire, and that would allow you to stick this in, at a higher space also. But I'm lazy and I would rather just stick this in from the bottom to my tubed stem and just make sure you go, a decent ways up there, maybe an inch, inch and a half-ish. And then we're just going to cut this copper piece off, and then you can just stick it in. So, if you're one of those people that's used wood picks before, dual purpose. You don't have to use it the way it was actually intended. I know, I never do. I just make up my own rules as I go, so.
Did you know you say you're lazy in almost every video?
I'm lazy.
But you're like one of the hardest working people that I know.
Well, I'm lazy when it comes to I want to make it as fast as I can possibly make it.
Efficient.
Okay.
Not lazy.
Well, the traditional way takes too long. Therefore,
right.
Maybe I'm impatient.
There you go. You just say that, and every time it catches me off guard because I'm like, you're one of the hardest working people I know.
I call it lazy design because it saves you time.
There you go. Lazy designs to save you time with David Christopher's.
Right. That's what we do here. Lazy design.
Well, that makes more sense.
Okay. We'll call it, if we want to call it lazy design.
A lazy design hack.
Yeah, that's... Can we be one of those channels with millions of people that's like lazy design, lazy hacks? Yeah.
Well, and I guess it just depends. Some people have more time to work on this than others. So I think over the years, you've probably had to learn some time-efficient tricks and to get everything done that had to be done in that day.
Yeah, there's been a few times that I've had to try to make some time exist that didn't.
Because in business ownership, especially small business ownership, I can't speak for larger businesses, but there's just so much that you have to do, and it can be very overwhelming.
That it can be.
It's not as glamorous as I think some people are like, ooh, I want to own my own business. That sounds so cool. And we're over here like, ooh, can we just go work for somebody else? Because this is... Are
you hiring?
Yeah, I know. Anybody out there hiring? No. No, we feel like we're called to do what we're doing currently in this season. So we'll keep at it, but it's not always easy.
It is not. I haven't found many times it's been easy. So not always easy makes you think that sometimes it's easy. And to my knowledge, this has never been easy. Yeah, there may have been an easy time sometime in the past, but the new tariffs are throwing a little wrench in our plan.
Yeah, they are.
Which
at this point, it's so early on that we don't know. Things change daily, so we're trying not to jump the gun and make any hasty decisions until something is sort of a little more finalized, or until we have to make a decision.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're going to change, and change they have quite daily, actually.
Yeah, so we've gotten some emails from some other vendors that are talking about price increases and things like that, but we're just not really ready to make that call. We feel like it's too early to make that call and are holding out, so...
We're holdouts.
We're holdouts. We are being patient.
We are trying to be patient, yeah. So then we're going to take this fern bunch here. We're going to be placing these and spreading these out. Just kind of give this a little collar around the top of our urn.
How many of those ferns would someone need to order if they just wanted a pot full of fern?
Depends on the size of your pot.
If it's that size.
If it's this size. Oh,
Put me on the spot.
yeah, you definitely are. To make it nice and full, I would say you'd probably need around 15.
That's what I was going to say. I was just guessing though.
Something around that number would be my guess.
But yeah, you could order the urn, one of our urns, and like 15 of the fern bush, or I guess they're like kind of like a fern bush bundle. And
stepping on my styrofoam here. Okay, so we do want to add some of this strawberry colored Nandina or Eunomus. Eunomus.
Eunomus.
And to do that, this branch is a little too long for us to just like stick it down in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that right here where this separates. So wire cutters involved in this one. And that's going to give us 2 pieces instead of 1, and that's going to allow us to make this a little more subtle and not like just crazy sticking out all over the place. But we do want some of that to kind of spill out over the front. And the rest of these I've already pre-cut just to save time. But we're just going to break up some of the peony because it's so much the same that we want to break them up just a bit. But this is going to give us a little green that goes throughout our container, and it's going to give us a little bit of that pink as well.
Looking real nice, Clark.
Thanks, Eddie. I don't know. We're in Christmas mode already.
we never leave Christmas mode.
That's true. I'm gonna make this one a little bit longer because some of this particular styrofoam I used already had holes in it from where I did some things to it earlier. There we go. Just kind of using the green to break up some of the pink. Now that we're done with that one, like I said, if you want, you can keep that one together and move on. You may want to just buy all 3 so you can practice, but this one's going to be a slightly different color combination. This is mostly green and some creams, and we are using our kind of patina blue finished urn here. But we do have like a gray and an antique white finish available. We're going to press down a little bit. Lovely noise, but it's like doing chest compressions for CPR. Like. Clear. So like I said, this one's going to be slightly more complicated. We are going to be using our plastic rosemary bush. And we're going to be doing this slightly asymmetrical. So that's what I mean by a little bit more complicated. And we're going to group these together. So we want to put 3 of them really to one side, which is strange. I know it doesn't seem correct. But then we're going to put a couple of our peacock plants over here on the other side. We're going to put a couple of our Dusty Miller plants and toward the front middle-ish area. Separate that peacock plant and our rosemary bush so you can see clearly the definitions of them. And then we are going to use some of the same fern bush that we used for the peony pot, just to kind of go around the outside edges here. And then here comes the other somewhat part of our asymmetry, is we are going to stick our hanging fern bush in, and then we're going to bring part of it around to mostly the front, but we want the majority of it to hang off of one side. So completely okay if you let some of this pull around the sides, but we want the longest part to be really on the corner with this planter. But you are absolutely okay with pulling this out. That's more preferred, to separate it, let it not be just a solid clump there. Then we are going to be adding our hydrangeas. 3 of those. And one toward the very center here. Okay, now we've got our planter pretty well planted, but what we really need is some height in this area, and to do that we're going to be using this. So to give us our height that we're looking for up here in the top, we're going to be using this. Kind of looks like baby's breath. I think we're calling it winter Daphne spray. Is that right?
Something like that.
I can't remember what that is. But because we've got something draping further on this side, we want to make this taller toward the center on the opposing side to give us just a little bit of a movement here. So on the tallest piece that we just put in, we're going to leave that a little taller. This one that goes more toward the side with the fern that's hanging down, we're going to leave a little bit lower. But we're going to allow this to just be kind of wispy. And then we're going to put another one in the back here, just to fill in some more of that negative space. Allow this to look like it's kind of growing out. There we go. And just make sure to separate all of these individual stems. If they're grouped together like that, they don't look as good as if you were to separate those, bend those out from each other. But that's pretty much got our more difficult planter option. So not too difficult. Actually, I think that one took maybe less time than the one I just did with the peonies, but I didn't have to extend any of the branches. We had longer stems that did that for us, so we saved a little time there.
So maybe this one is the beginner and the other one is the intermediate? I don't know. What do y'all think? Let us know. We believe you can do all of them. You know the drill. We want to know your favorite. Are you more of a tulip person?
I thought the drill was buy one of each.
Oh, maybe that's it. But we do want to know in the comments, which one would you put on your front porch? The tulips, more of the hydrangeas, or the peonies? Because we've got options. You've
We've got
options.
lots of options.
Check out our website, davidchristopher's.com. We sell wholesale, we sell retail, and we ship. And if you're local to Sheffield, Alabama or North Alabama, Florence, Muscle Shoals, Tuscumbia, you can do local pickup. You don't even have to wait for it to arrive to your front door. Just swing right by, and we have happy, smiling faces to bring things to your car.
Happy, smiling faces. They probably
Hey!
What are you doing here?
You never know. You might see the Easter thug.
That's true. That's true. There are Easter thug sightings.
What did you call this?
Winter Daphne spray?
No, something else.
Baby's breath?
No.
Gypsophilia?
No.
I don't know.
No. This. Something in this.
Oh, Nandina?
The other word.
Eunomus?
I was going to make a joke about us. We'll take care of you.
That's as bad as some of mine.
Bye.